The human transport ship Silver Wake drifted through the quiet stretch of Orion's belt, its engines humming like a tired old beast. Inside, the crew prepared for the diplomatic exchange that would decide whether humanity would finally join the alliance. Every uniform was ironed, every word was practiced, and every step was rehearsed. But among them, one man was far from ready. Elias Ward, a maintenance technician with oil-stained hands and a tendency to trip over his own boots, stood at the polished window of the main hangar. He was supposed to check the landing clamps before the alien delegation arrived. Instead, he stared at his reflection, wondering why fate kept placing him in situations far above his pay grade. He had never met an alien before, never mind a royal one. There were rumored to be tall, elegant beings with shimmering skin and eyes that held galaxies inside them. Elias imagined himself standing next to someone like that and instantly felt like a smudge on a painting. As he wiped his palms on his jumpsuit, the hangar lights shifted, doors opened, air pressure changed, a faint ringing echoed through the metal floor. The alien descended like a glowing spearhead of silver. Everyone stood straight, tense, and proper. Except Elias. He was still crouched near a toolbox, scrambling to finish the inspection that should have been done 20 minutes earlier. The docking clamps hissed, his wrench slipped, his heart jumped. The ramp of the cruiser extended. Guards stepped out first, tall, armored, graceful like living statues. Their armor reflected blues and violet lights with every movement. Behind them came diplomats wearing flowing robes that fluttered despite the still air. Then she appeared. Princess. Her steps were light, almost floating, and her silver hair rippled like liquid moonlight. Her skin glowed faintly as if painted by starlight. Her eyes, large, bright, shifting between soft rose and pale gold, moved across the hangar with gentle curiosity. The entire human welcoming committee bowed. Elias did not bow. He was too busy falling flat on his back. The sound echoed embarrassingly loud across the hangar. His wrench clattered next to him. Several humans winced. A guard raised a brow in confusion. His eyes drifted toward the noise. She stepped closer, expression softening in concern. Is he harmed? Her voice was calm and warm, like a melody that soothed metal and bone alike. Elias scrambled to his feet, cheeks burning. I am fine, sorry, I was just working and the wrench, well it slipped and then I. He had no idea what else he said. His tongue moved faster than his brain. His hands made some kind of frantic wave gesture. His dignity evaporated. Tilted her head, studying him with gentle interest. Are all human engineers this energetic? She asked quietly. Elias froze, his throat tightened. His mind went blank. And then he said it. He didn't plan to, he didn't even think it. The words just jumped out of the panic in his chest, sharp and loud enough to carry across the quiet hangar. Sorry, Your Highness. I didn't mean to, fall in front of someone so gorgeous. Silence. Dead glowing, echoing silence. Every human officer stared at him like he had just declared an intergalactic war. A guard even reached for his staff, unsure if the statement was an insult or a challenge. Elias wished the floor would swallow him whole. His lungs refused to work. His knees wobbled like wet cardboard. He considered running out the nearest airlock. But then something impossible happened. Blinked, her cheeks shimmered with soft rose light, blush. She brought one delicate hand to her lips, eyes widening just enough to reveal surprise. For a moment, the alien princess looked less like a royal figure and more like a startled young woman hearing something she had never heard before. That is, she whispered, her voice trembling very slightly, a bold thing to tell a princess. Elias wanted to apologize again. He wanted to explain he didn't mean it, or maybe he did, but not out loud, or maybe he did mean it and should say sorry for meaning it. But she spoke again. It is kind, said softly. A ripple of shock spread across both delegations. They whispered among themselves. Humans exchanged terrified glances. A compliment, especially from a lower-ranking worker, was unheard of in culture. It crossed lines, breached protocols, yet did not look offended. She looked touched. Her blush brightened. She glanced down for a moment, her composure shaken just enough to reveal something fragile beneath. And in that tiny crack of silence, something shifted in the air, something that would change the fate of two species. Because the princess wasn't supposed to blush at a human, and humans weren't supposed to shake the heart of a royal princess. Not with a single word. Not by accident. Not like this. The hangar stayed frozen long after the echo of Elias' words faded. Humans held their breath, stood like carved stone. No one wanted to move, afraid that the slightest sound might trigger a diplomatic disaster. But Princess did something unexpected. She smiled. It was small and soft, like a star just beginning to glow. Her eyes, those shifting colors of dawn, rested on Elias with a strange mixture of surprise and warmth. For the first time since she stepped onto the ship, she didn't look like a distant royal being. She looked human, almost fragile. Elias felt the world tilt. He had seen engines explode, pipes burst, and full power grids collapse. None of those scared him as much as this moment. A princess smiling because he called her gorgeous. That was enough to break his brain into pieces. The human commander captain cleared his throat nervously. "Your Highness, shall we proceed to the conference room?" Did not answer. She kept staring at Elias as if trying to understand him, really understand him. Finally, she spoke. "What is your name, human engineer?" Her voice carried through the hangar like soft wind. Everyone turned to stare at Elias again. He felt a dozen different species of panic fight inside his chest. Elias Ward, Your Highness," he managed. Nodded slowly. "Elias," she repeated, shaping his name carefully. "It is pleasant to hear." Another shock spread across the room. Did not repeat the names of lower-ranked individuals. Doing so meant respect, or something dangerously close to personal interest. Captain stepped forward. "Princess, perhaps." "I would like him to guide my first tour of your vessel," she said, cutting him off with a calm certainty that left no room for argument. Nearly choked on his own breath. Pardon, Your Highness, he is a maintenance technician. Surely you would prefer a trained diplomat or—" "No," she said gently but firmly. "He will show me the ship." Everyone turned to Elias again. He wished someone would turn him off and restart him like a malfunctioning android. "But Your Highness," he stammered, "I'm not qualified, I just fix things, I don't know how to, do royal tour." Stepped closer. Her robes shimmered with soft trails of light. She stopped at a distance that felt far too close for any normal protocol. Elias could see the tiny silver flecks in her hair, the gentle glow of her breath. "You spoke to me without fear," she said. "You said something true when others used only formal greetings. I think you will show me more than polished floors and perfect speeches." Elias felt his heart squeeze in a painful, unfamiliar way. He was not special, he was not important. He was the kind of guy who tightened bolts and replaced old coolant lines. No one ever asked him to lead anything. And yet here she stood, an alien princess, choosing him. Captain forced a polite smile. "If that is your wish, Your Highness, we will allow it." Lips curved slightly. "It is not a wish, it is a decision." Two guards stepped forward at once. Their movements were sharp, protective. One of them, a tall figure named, looked directly at Elias with clear disapproval. "Princess, he is untrained and warned. You should not walk these halls with a stranger." Didn't even turn toward him. Her voice held calm authority. "He is not a danger." "He could be incompetent," insisted. Elias swallowed anxiously. "He's not wrong," he whispered under his breath. Heard him, her expression softened again, almost amused. "I will take that risk." And just like that, the matter was settled. Gestured toward Elias. "Shall we begin?" Elias felt his legs move before his brain agreed. He led her through the hangar doors, followed by guards and stunned human officers who whispered among themselves. Every step felt like walking through a dream he did not belong in. As they entered the quieter corridors of the ship, his voice broke the silence. Elias, she said, testing the name again. Why did you call me gorgeous? His face turned the color of emergency lights. I didn't mean to say it out loud. My brain panicked and the words escaped. Really sorry if it was rude or disrespectful or illegal or... A soft laugh escaped her. Not a royal laugh, not a practiced diplomatic laugh. A real one. Among, she said gently, such words are rarely spoken. We are taught to be admired, not complimented. When someone calls a princess beautiful, it is usually a duty, a custom, a practiced formality. She paused, watching him with open curiosity. But you said it by accident, not because you must, but because you felt it. That makes your words valuable. Elias blinked, confused. Valuable, my words. Yes, she said softly, to me. His heart beat faster. They continued walking. For a long moment neither spoke. The corridor lights glowed around them. The ship hummed like a quiet heartbeat. Then whispered, almost too softly to hear. No one has ever made me blush before. Elias stumbled over nothing. Smiled again. And in that small, fragile moment, the fate of two worlds trembled, quietly, gently, beautifully. The corridors of the Silver Wake were quiet but alive. Lights traced smooth, silver panels and soft hums of the ship's engines created a rhythm that felt almost alive. Elias walked ahead, his hands rubbing nervously against his jumpsuit pockets. Followed, floating lightly behind him, her eyes scanning every corner with curiosity. Guards and a few human officers trailed quietly, giving them space. Elias had no plan for the tour. He could show her the engine room, maybe the hydroponic labs and the living quarters, but he knew she had seen better technology on her own worlds. He worried his ship would look like a toy beside hers. Yet, somehow, the princess's gaze made him feel like it was enough. Do humans always walk so quickly? Asked, her voice soft and melodic. Elias almost tripped over his own boots. I guess some do. We call it hurrying. Very professional, apparently. She tilted her head and her silver hair shimmered with light. Hurrying, interesting. And are humans usually so nervous? He swallowed hard. Depends on what kind of human you meet, and on whether they're trying to avoid insulting a royal princess. Let out a small laugh. It was softer than the one he had heard before, but it carried warmth. I think it is brave, not insulting. They reached a hallway lined with transparent panels, showing the outside. Elias paused, unsure what to show next. The ship's labs, they were full of blinking consoles and tangled wires, nothing impressive. But then he noticed a small maintenance hatch. This way, he said, leading her down a narrow corridor. It's, probably not exciting, but it's important. Didn't hesitate, she followed without question. The hatch opened into a maintenance bay filled with wires, conduits, and glowing panels. Elias pointed at a complex array of tubes. These regulate the life support systems. Without them, we couldn't breathe here. Knelt beside one panel, touching it lightly with 2 fingers. Her eyes glowed faintly as the lights reflected in them. So fragile yet so essential, she whispered. Even your smallest actions matter greatly. Elias felt a lump in his throat. She was looking at his world, the cramped, messy, ordinary spaces he worked in, like it was a palace. And in her eyes it suddenly seemed like one. Princess, I don't know if he started, but stopped. Words failed him. She turned to him, soft and curious. If you don't know, then tell me anyway. Humans often learn by trying, yes. Elias exhaled slowly. I never thought someone like you, someone regal, would care about places like this, or people like me. Her lips curved faintly. I care because you are honest. Your words, your stumbles, they are real. That is rare. He almost laughed at the absurdity. A royal princess, glowing softly under ship lights, saying his ordinary existence was rare. Yet it didn't feel absurd. It felt like the truth settling warmly over his chest. The walk continued, winding through narrow corridors, observation decks, and storage bays. Elias pointed out each section, fumbling with technical terms, but listened as if every word was a story she had waited a long time to hear. Your people, you work hard, she said finally, looking out at the stars. Even the smallest contributions, they ripple farther than you know. Elias shrugged, embarrassed. I just do my job. There are thousands who do it better than me. No, she insisted. You showed courage the moment you spoke honestly. You made me feel something new. That is more than skill, that is strength. He blinked. No one had ever said that to him. Not teachers, not bosses, not friends. The words burned warmly in his chest, a mix of disbelief and pride. The tour took them to the observation deck next. Stars streaked past as the silver wake maneuvered through Orion's belt, pressed her hands to the glass, her face reflecting galaxies. You see these stars? She whispered. Your people travel so far, yet so carefully. You cling to life like it is sacred. That is beautiful. Elias stood beside her, silent. He realized she wasn't just complimenting him. She was seeing humanity, the messy, stubborn, daring species, and admiring it. Princess, he said, voice low, I never thought humans would matter to someone like you. Her eyes softened, shimmering. Humans do matter, and now you matter, Elias. The words struck him like a sudden flare of light. His stomach twisted. He knew the rules, aliens and humans, royal and ordinary, separate worlds. But standing here with her gaze fixed on him, he felt like boundaries could be rewritten. Somewhere deep in the corridors of the Silver Wake, life felt larger, brighter, more possible. And Elias realized, sometimes being human meant more than strength, more than intelligence. It meant being real. And glowing and fragile, had just shown him how much one person's honesty could change another's world. The observation deck glowed softly with the reflected light of distant stars. Elias and Princess stood side by side, separated by only a few steps, yet worlds apart in upbringing and expectation. The silence was comfortable, filled with the quiet hum of the ship and the soft of life support systems. For the first time, Elias felt like he belonged, not just as a human technician, but as someone important in the story unfolding around him. Elias, began, her voice barely above a whisper, tell me, what do humans fear the most? Elias hesitated. He looked out at the streaking stars, trying to find words. We fear failing the people we care about, not always ourselves, but those we love. We carry that fear like a weight, even when we don't show it. Tilted her head, studying him. I see, that is a strong burden. It is, he admitted, eyes tracing the horizon. But it also makes us try harder to protect, to fix, to survive, to mean something to someone else. Her hand hovered near the railing, but instead of touching the glass, she looked directly at him. You mean something to me, she said softly. Even though you are small in your world and I am far larger in mine, you remind me of what is real, what is worth caring about beyond power and protocol. Elias swallowed hard. His heart pounded so loudly it almost drowned out the ship's hum. He had never been told something like that, not by anyone, human or alien, and yet it did not feel like flattery. It felt like truth. Princess, he trailed off, unsure if words could carry the weight of what he felt. You need not speak, she said, stepping closer. The faint glow of her skin illuminated the concern and curiosity in her expression. Sometimes understanding is enough. For a long moment, they simply watched the stars, letting the quiet fill the space between them. Then, without warning, its expression shifted. Her eyes narrowed slightly as she pointed toward a flicker of movement outside the observation panels. Do you see that? She asked. A shadow, something unusual. Elias squinted. At first it looked like a glitch in the lights, a reflection perhaps. But as he focused, he realized it was real. Something moved among the asteroid clusters, a ship of unknown design, fast, silent, and deliberate. Unknown vessel, he muttered. His technician's instincts kicked in. It's not on our radar, it could be hostile. His fingers tightened on the railing. Her blush, faint and delicate earlier, had vanished. Now her eyes glimmered with steel beneath the glow. Then we must prepare, she said calmly. Humans and alike, our strength lies in facing danger together. Elias felt an unexpected surge of pride. Despite the fear curling in his chest, he knew he would not run. Not now. Not with her looking at him like that. Not when the unknown could threaten what he had just glimpsed, a bridge between worlds, fragile and precious. He moved toward the control panel near the deck. His hands worked quickly, alert, trained in mechanics, now improvising defensive measures. Knelt beside him, her presence steadying his shaking hands. "Trust your instincts," she said. "Even ordinary humans can do extraordinary things." The vessel outside adjusted its trajectory, moving closer. Its design was alien, jagged, and fast. Elias' heart thumped wildly, but he followed's calm lead, improvising shields, rerouting power, and alerting the rest of the ship. Every touch, every adjustment felt like a heartbeat syncing with hers. Minutes passed like hours. Then the shadow changed course, seemingly deciding against confrontation. The threat drifted away into the darkness of the asteroid belt. Exhaled, a faint smile returning to her lips. "You see," she whispered, turning toward Elias. "Your courage, your honesty, it mattered. You acted when others would have frozen. That is why humans endure." Elias, breathless and exhilarated, couldn't find words. But he realized something more profound than survival or victory. In that fleeting moment, the princess, the alien royalty, had not just recognized his actions, she had recognized him. His human imperfections, his clumsiness, his impulsive heart had not been dismissed. They had been seen. And that mattered more than any rank, any protocol, or any galaxy between them. His hand brushed lightly against his arm, not formally, not ceremoniously, but gently, like a quiet acknowledgement. Elias felt a warmth surge through him, stronger than adrenaline, more lasting than pride. "Elias," she said softly, her voice almost trembling, "sometimes the smallest spark can illuminate the darkest places. You are that spark." He swallowed, unable to speak, feeling the weight and truth of her words sink deep into his chest. And as the stars spun past the observation deck, he realized that the galaxy had suddenly become smaller and infinitely brighter because of her presence. The corridors of the Silver Wake were quieter now, almost intimate, and Elias walked side by side, leaving the observation deck behind. The rest of the crew had retreated to their stations, buzzing softly with the aftermath of the strange encounter and near threat. Elias felt the tension in his shoulders relax slightly, though his heartbeat still raced. His eyes wandered to the small details of the ship, the scuffed floors, the panels with handwritten notes in human ink, the little scratches and dents that no one would notice but a careful observer. She smiled softly. "Your people live in imperfect worlds," she said. "Yet you keep them alive, you make them beautiful despite the flaws." Elias glanced at her, startled by the depth in her voice. I just do my job, I fix what I can, the world does the rest." "No," insisted, her gaze steady. "The world depends on what you choose to repair. Even the smallest act matters. Even a wrench tightening a pipe can change the course of life." He laughed nervously. "I never thought of it that way. I usually just worry about what will explode next." She tilted her head, silver hair catching the faint light. "Explosions or not, courage often lies in doing what others overlook. I see that in you." Elias' face warmed. He had never been praised like this. He had never been seen like this. And yet every word from her sounded true, personal, and grounding. They walked further past the crew's quarters. The hum of life support and distant engines filled the spaces between them. Hands brushed lightly against the railing, but she did not let go of her composure. Every gesture was careful, almost royal, yet there was a vulnerability there too, a faint softness that made her more than a distant celestial figure. "You blush easily, Elias," she said suddenly, her voice teasing but kind. Elias froze. I don't know what you mean." She tilted her head, eyes glinting like twin suns. "You do. And I like that you feel things fully. That is rare in your people, and even rarer among royalty." His heart stumbled at the words. He wanted to tell her he didn't know how to respond, that he was ordinary, and that she deserved someone perfect. But instead, he found himself walking closer, feeling a strange pull he could neither name nor resist. They reached the small recreation area, a modest room with simple chairs, a few human decorations, and a wall-mounted displaying a rotating star map. Moved toward the window, her figure framed by the vast darkness outside. "Elias," she said quietly, "do you ever feel out of place, like the universe is too big for one person to matter?" He shook his head slowly. "I used to, but then I realized that the universe doesn't care about our fears. It only responds to what we do, small or large, brave or foolish, and sometimes our actions matter more than we know. Her lips curved faintly and her glowing eyes softened. You speak like someone who has faced storms, and yet you still find courage to smile, to stumble, and to speak honestly. That is rare, human. That is extraordinary. Elias felt warmth rise through his chest. For the first time, he realized that his ordinary life, his small acts of labor and care, could be seen as noble, not because anyone else required it, but because she noticed. She valued him. They stayed silent for a while, watching the stars streak past as the silver wake glided through the void. The quiet was comforting, intimate, and full of unspoken understanding. Finally turned toward him, her expression soft, almost shy. Elias, you have made me see humans differently. You have reminded me that life is not only about rules, protocol, or appearances. Sometimes it is about honesty, courage, and the willingness to feel. He swallowed, words failing him. He had never been told anything like this by anyone, and yet it felt more real than anything he had ever heard. You make me feel like I can exist without walls, she continued. And that is dangerous but wonderful. Elias' breath caught. He wanted to say something profound, something that would capture his gratitude, his awe, and the strange stirring in his chest. But no words seemed big enough. Instead, he simply nodded, letting the silence speak. In that quiet room, surrounded by stars and soft hums of the ship, something fragile and powerful passed between them. A recognition, a spark, and the first true connection between two very different worlds. And for Elias, that moment was more than a compliment, more than a royal acknowledgement. It was a promise of possibility, that humanity, even in its simplest form, could touch the heart of the stars. The corridors had emptied. The hum of the ship seemed louder now, echoing off polished walls. Elias and Princess walked side by side, though neither said much. Words had become unnecessary. Every glance, every pause, spoke more than the formal speeches or polite greetings of the past hours. They reached a small balcony overlooking the void stretched endlessly, dotted with distant suns, planets, and drifting asteroids. Rested her hands lightly on the railing, her eyes reflecting the galaxies beyond. You humans are curious creatures, she said softly. Even in fear you reach out, even in uncertainty you act. You surprise me, Elias. Elias swallowed. He felt exposed under her gaze like a book laid open for someone to read. I don't know if I deserve that, he admitted. I'm just me. I stumble, I fix things, I try not to mess up. Her head tilted, her silver hair catching the light. And yet you speak truth. You do what many would hesitate to even imagine. That makes you remarkable, more than your failures, more than your mistakes. That is your courage. His heart thumped so loudly he feared she might hear it. He had spent his life unnoticed, invisible in the vastness of the human world. But now, here under the stars, he felt seen, truly seen. Glanced at him, her expression softening. You do not realize the gift you give by being yourself. Most people hide, most people play roles. You simply are, and that is rare. He wanted to speak, to respond, but no words felt sufficient. Instead, he stood quietly beside her, letting the weight of her words settle over him. Then she laughed softly, a warm, melodic sound that seemed to belong to the stars themselves. Do you know, she said, you made me blush, truly blush, not by intention, not by ceremony, but by accident, and yet it affected me deeply. Elias froze, his cheeks heated at the memory of that moment. I didn't mean it, he stammered. No, she admitted, her voice gentle. But sometimes the most honest words are the ones that matter most. Your accident was sincere. That is why it moved me. He looked away for a moment, embarrassed, but also astonished. He had not imagined that a simple human phrase could ripple through the life of a princess. The weight of protocol, tradition, and centuries of expectation had not shielded her from his words. Somehow, he had reached her. The stars moved slowly across the void, mirrored in glowing eyes. She turned toward him, hands still resting lightly on the railing. Elias, do you understand what you have done? He shook his head. No, I just spoke without thinking, that's all. No, she said firmly. You have bridged a gap. You have reminded me that even the smallest beings, humans, can reach across worlds, touch hearts, and remind someone like me what it means to feel. You changed something inside me. Elias felt a strange mixture of pride and fear. The responsibility weighed heavily. Could an ordinary human really impact the life of a royal alien princess? And yet, he saw the truth in her eyes. Leaned slightly closer, her silver hair brushing the faint glow of the railing. "Do you know why I trust you?" she whispered. "Because you are honest, because you stumble and rise, because you are not afraid to be human, fully human with all your flaws. That is the greatest courage I have ever known." Elias felt warmth flood his chest. Never in his life had he been called courageous for simply existing. His mistakes, his clumsiness, his ordinary life, all of it, suddenly seemed valuable. "Princess," he said softly, I don't know what to say. You make it feel like my life matters, like humans matter, like I matter to someone beyond myself." His eyes shimmered, reflecting the starlight. "You do matter, Elias, more than you realize. And sometimes it takes someone small, someone ordinary, to show a princess the truth of her own heart." The words hung in the air, heavy, fragile, and beautiful. Elias felt a shiver run through him. It was not fear, not entirely. It was awe, connection, wonder, something he had never thought he would experience, not in 1,000 lifetimes. For a long while they simply stood there, side by side, letting the silence speak. The stars drifted past endlessly, the silver wake floating in the quiet dark of space. And in that stillness, two worlds, so different, so distant, felt closer than ever before. Something had shifted, something had begun. And Elias, ordinary human engineer, realized that sometimes the smallest hearts could leave the deepest marks, even on the stars. The corridors of the Silver Wake were quiet again, but now the quiet felt alive with possibility. Elias led Princess through the ship, but the usual anxiety that plagued him had softened. He no longer felt like a clumsy human technician. Every glance she gave him, every faint smile, reminded him that he mattered, not because of rank or skill, but because he was himself. They reached the central deck, where the ship's main viewports opened into the infinite dark of space. Stars shimmered in scattered brilliance, distant suns burning with light that had traveled thousands of years to reach them. Stood near the glass, her glowing skin reflecting the stars, her posture both regal and impossibly tender. "You humans, you find wonder in everything," she said softly. "Even in the smallest details, the simplest actions. That amazes me." Elias swallowed, feeling the weight of her words. "I think maybe humans survive because we notice what others overlook. We stumble, we fall, but we try. That trying is everything." Turned toward him, her eyes glowing faintly with rose and gold. "And in that trying," she said, "you have shown me something rare, something I will never forget. Courage, honesty, humanity." His heart skipped. The word humanity felt immense, heavy, and full of meaning coming from her lips. Elias realized that in her world his kind was not supposed to touch hers, not in thought, not in feeling, yet somehow he had. "I never imagined anyone like me could affect someone like you," he said quietly, words trembling. "I'm just me, ordinary, clumsy, not meant for." Cut him off gently, stepping closer, the glow of her presence almost tangible. "You are enough, Elias. You always were. Ordinary humans like you carry worlds on their shoulders without realizing it. You stumbled into honesty, into courage, and that changed everything." Elias blinked. For the first time, he allowed himself to see it, not just her, not just the stars, but himself. A human, ordinary and flawed, standing here, bridging the distance between worlds. "You made me feel things I never thought possible," whispered, voice almost fragile. "By being human, by being honest, by daring to speak without pretense, that is the greatest gift I have received." Elias felt a warmth bloom in his chest. Never before had his simple existence, his messy life, his awkwardness, his small acts, been called a gift. His gaze softened further, and for a moment the universe seemed to pause. Even the distant stars looked still, as if leaning closer to witness this fragile moment. "Princess, Elias hesitated. The words he wanted to say seemed too vast for his mouth. I never thought anyone would see me like this, truly me." "You are seen," she said firmly, almost smiling, "and that is everything." The silver wake drifted quietly, carrying them through the endless night. Stars streaked past, asteroid fields glimmered like jewels, and the vast emptiness felt smaller somehow, less threatening, more intimate. Elias felt tears prick at the corners of his eyes, not from sadness, but from something rarer, recognition, connection, and awe. He had spent his life unnoticed, unimportant, a small cog in a vast machine. Yet now, standing beside a princess who had chosen to see him, his existence felt monumental. "You humans are extraordinary," said her voice low and reverent. "Not because of power or strength or technology, but because you feel, because you care, because despite everything you continue." Elias nodded slowly. He understood now. Humanity mattered, not just to themselves, but to the universe, to anyone willing to look closely. And sometimes, even a princess, untouchable and radiant, could be moved by something as simple as honesty. They stayed side by side at the viewport, watching stars drift in endless silence. No one spoke for a long time. No one needed to. In the quiet, something fragile and infinite was born: trust, admiration, and a bond that transcended rank, species, and worlds. Finally, soft glow shifted to a gentle smile. "Elias, thank you for being human, for daring to speak, for being seen." He swallowed, his chest tight with emotion. "Thank you, Princess, for seeing me." In that moment, amidst the stars and the endless black of space, Elias realized that sometimes the smallest acts, the simplest words spoken honestly, could reach across galaxies. They could touch hearts, bridge worlds, and leave marks that no amount of protocol or power could erase. And as the silver wake continued its silent journey through the void, two very different worlds, two very different beings, carried with them a single luminous truth. Being seen, truly seen, was a power greater than any weapon, brighter than any star, and more enduring than the universe itself.